change my past. If I did, I wouldn't be the person I am now. A few months ago, in September 2012, my dad died of motor neurone disease. Although his case was terminal, it came as a complete shock to all of us. When I think about my dad, I think of the many things that we share. Not only looks, but personality and humour as well. This speech is about facing the future, but you can't face it until you've learned not to live in your past. When my dad died, I didn't really understand the concept of it. I didn't even cry about his death. I didn't really understand what grieving really was. You shouldn't live in your past, but you shouldn't ignore it either. 1 month after he died, I realised I'd never talk or see him ever again. My dad was amazing, truly amazing. There are no other words for him. After someone dies, everybody who knew him hero worships them. And they think of them as amazing. This doesn't help you understand what the person was really like. I made a speech at my dad's funeral, and I remember thinking, don't cry, don't mess up, and don't fall flat on your face if you trip over the step. I wrote a poem when I first realised about my dad's death. I'm going to read it out to you. A man came in looking gloomy. He went to his desk. Nobody knew him. He was a stranger. A new recruit, perhaps. The man sat down, got out his pen. He tried to write the document he was to produce. No good, the pen slipped from his fingers. He tried again and again. It failed. I walked over and said, "Do you need help?" He simply shrugged and nodded. I swung round a chair, then took hold of his pen. I slowly wrote out the document he was saying. We worked steadily till lunch, when we headed over to the cafe. We got our food and sat down. He asked me to cut up his food. He said this quietly and shyly. I did as he said. After I cut his chicken and potatoes up, he ate slowly with his left hand. As he got his jelly, he, with his left hand, slowly attempted to scoop it up. He failed every time. Then he said, "Can you feed me?" I was shocked, but I nodded despite that. I felt his pain, his sorrow, his embarrassment. I fed him every spoonful. The day ended at the office, and I went home, after helping the man, stranger, just one of many who would. When I realised the impact of my dad's death, I didn't sleep or think for ages. I went to bed every night at 1, 2 o'clock. When I got to school, I tried to shove aside my emotions and either concentrate on friends or work. This didn't help. It ended me working like a machine, and I wasn't caring for myself. 2 months after my dad died, my grandma had a stroke. This just pushed me right over the edge. My mum took me to a counsellor, and she helped me face my one regret. My counsellor was a lifesaver. My one regret was building a wall between me and my dad when he got really ill. He could only slightly move his left hand, and he couldn't speak louder than a whisper. He had no hope in moving any other part of his body. When my dad was his normal self again, we'd sit down and talk, but I never showed him how I really felt. The two most important things to me are truth and family. If my mum and dad hadn't told me the truth about my dad's illness from the start, I would have never trusted them again. I would be very angry at them, and I wouldn't be able to think straight at the moment. The two people that I most respect in my life at the moment are my Uncle Tom and my mum Rachel. Without them, I'd have a very different opinion on life. I'm now going to read out a story I wrote about my dad's funeral party. After a while, I sat down. So many people I've never met and hopefully never will again have sympathetically smiled, hugged, and cried on me. I looked around and my eyes meet Millie briefly, playing with the cousins. I don't think she really understands the concept our dad died 2 weeks ago, but neither do I for that matter. Then I meet the only person I have wanted to. "Hey Hannah, great you could make it," I say, trying to disguise the reason why we're all gathered in this cramped hall. "Oh, hi Sophie," Hannah replies, clearly not expecting me to actually be able to talk just like everyone else. "I'd just like to say your speech was totally inspiring. Your dad was an amazing person and the best person I ever cared for. I wished I could have spent longer with him." Wow, Hannah just had this way of making us all feel better. Ever since she moved in to help look after Dad, we'd all felt calm and relaxed. Thanks, Hannah. On behalf of Millie, Mum, and I'd like to say you were a lifesaver. She hugged me and I left. I would have spent more time with her, but I was in a kind of alive but not feeling conscious or aware mood. When someone you love dies, it's like your life is a big dream for a year, and then you try and move on, but you never ever forget. I slowly made my subconscious way down to the garden part of the hotel we'd rented out. Looking back, I must have looked quite abnormal walking around in my pretty dress, although I was looking as whitey grey as my cardigan. This, however, was not helped by the dark circles that had formed around my eyes, even after the concealer I'd attempted to apply this morning. I made my way back to the bench that I'd sat on earlier, after being rudely interrupted by my older cousin, telling me that I had to eat and how I could not be hungry. It was nearly 3 o'clock. As I approach the bench, I see an equally out-of-it man, who, as I get closer, I recognize as my dad's best friend. He, like me, isn't good with talking to people about tragic things, and he's probably just as tired as people telling him about his speech as I am about mine. I sit down next to him and just stare blankly at the ground. We both know what the other one is thinking, without asking. This was an eventful day, and a very emotional one as well. We both haven't had time to process it without people around. I feel bad. I don't really know him that well. He lives in Brighton, so Dad used to go and see him when I was at school. Although I felt like I knew exactly who he was, I felt like we'd known each other our whole lives. We both have regrets about things we wish we'd done with Dad, things we wish we'd said, but then I guess everybody probably does. I look at the balcony and then to the sky, knowing that's where my dad is. You can't put a man in hell if you've already made him live through hell, his illness. It made us stronger. It had made us think and be grateful for life and our family and friends. If I could tell him one last thing, I can tell you it would be, Daddy, I know you've got to go, but promise me one thing. When you get sad and miss us, just remember you can look down and see us. Don't worry, we'll be joining you soon, though. If you don't take anything else away from my speech, please take away that family and friends are the most important things in life. Thank you.